Monday afternoon, late afternoon in San Diego, Monday early evening in Washington, D.C. We have another conversation about to happen in this room that I call the magic room. I call it a magic room because two people who have no idea who each other are have agreed to walk into this room sight unseen and just have a conversation. We never know what's going to go on. We we don't know how it's going to go. We don't know if there's going to be harmony or discord. But what I can tell you from the shows that I've done prior, there has always been within the first 3 to 4 minutes, maybe not even that long, something that the person that's walked into the room that I don't know has shown me that is exactly what I believe. And that we find similarities in our lifestyles and the way we do it, even though we may be completely different. There's something that we do that we share. And I guess my hope and dream is that this world will start to find those places where we are more alike than we are different. Because, like in a mosaic, the pieces don't always connect side to side. Sometimes it's just corner to corner, meaning what this piece believes and what this piece believes, they just don't agree. But all they need is this little tiny corner here. And that keeps the mosaic whole. And it makes the artistry of the mosaic functionable. So who knows what's going to happen? But I walk in with the same excitement I walk in every show, as I have a new stranger that comes into my room. His name today is Jason Greenspan. Jason, welcome to 50 Conversations. How are you today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
It's absolutely my honor. Tell us, the world may know who you are. I have no idea who you are. And my audience may or may not know who you are. But for the sake of my um, uh, own gratification, can you please tell me who you are and what's important to you?
Sure. So I am 26. I'm from Maryland near DC, and graduated with a marketing degree from Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. And um, I currently work with a local health nonprofit and do event planning.
Event planning.
Yep.
How's that been with COVID-19? That must have taken some hits a little bit, huh?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of virtual events right now.
Yeah,
So it's definitely slow on the physical event part, but we're keeping busy still.
I
So
bet.
that's good.
I bet. And what sort of events do you do?
We do anything from cycling events, hike events. We have our Great Strides, which is similar to like a Relay for Life type event. Trying to think what else. We have a Finest event, which is for young professionals. So a little bit of everything, really.
Got you. Got you. So, what's important to you?
So one main thing that's important to my life is spreading awareness about testicular cancer. I'm a survivor myself. I was diagnosed when I was 18. I was in my senior year of high school and kind of discovered it by accident. And I was literally on the couch just watching TV and had an itch, and one was harder than the other. And went upstairs to my mom and told her, and we made an appointment to the doctor. And once he did the exam, he pretty much knew what it was.
That
And then I
quickly.
had to say that again.
He knew that quickly.
Yeah, by doing the testicular exam.
Wow.
And then I did tests after that just to confirm it.
Yeah. And so, tell me what a diagnosis of testicular cancer does to an 18-year-old boy who's just starting out life.
Yeah, so when he told me, it was just my mom and I in the room with him. And the one way I like to word it is my life flashed in front of my eye. And, it's very cliche to say, but that's the only thing that happened. And, I didn't have many years
Yeah.
behind me. It was about 18. So there wasn't much, but a lot of what I kept thinking of was also just the future and how it wouldn't happen and all these things. I was already ready to go to college, and it, it was it was hard just to get it in.
Did you blame yourself for something? Did you say it's my fault? Something happened. I shouldn't have done this. What was your initial emotional response when you heard it?
I didn't blame myself. I think I was just more shocked. You never think it's going to happen to you. And
Yeah.
then when you find out it happens to you, it's kind of like a surreal um, reaction. You just can't believe it.
So, if you can, walk me through that surreal reaction because I bet there's some people here that are listening to you now that are like just scared to death that that could come their way and they have no idea what that would look like or what that would feel like or how that would be. And so, walk me through that for a minute so that someone sitting here might get a sense because here you are. Have you beaten it or do you ever beat it? Or you tell me about where you're at now?
Yeah, so I am in November. Towards the end of November, I'll be 8 years cancer free. I'm
Wow.
26 now. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations. So, what was that moment like, really? When I know your life flashed before your eyes, but you didn't have a big life to flash before your eyes. Your words, not mine. Um,
No, I think the one thing with it was I didn't, I'd never even heard of this type of cancer.
yeah,
And whenever I would go to the pediatrician when I was younger, they would always, I would always have to get naked in front of them. You know what I mean? They would do the
yeah,
testicular exam. I never knew why they were doing this. I didn't even know what they were doing.
right,
I just didn't like being naked in front of somebody that I go to once a year.
yeah.
And, and it was a woman doctor on top of that. So it was
Oh
just,
wow,
a little boy. It's just like, this is weird.
yeah,
And, so I think I thought of that, of like, oh, like this is maybe why they're, why they did it. But I really, the only thing, like I said, I could think of was I'd never even heard of this. What is this? And why me?
yeah.
And
And
yeah,
what? Why you? Do you have any idea now why you?
I think I've definitely, since being diagnosed, I've completely changed as a person. I'm much more confident than I ever was.
Wow.
I like to think at least that I've helped a lot of people with all the awareness that I've done just by sharing my story and everything with that. And I never really had a purpose. It's a weird way to say it.
Yeah,
Um, but I was never really into anything really besides just like, watching TV and stuff
yeah.
when I was little. And I've had this purpose now since I was diagnosed, and it's definitely driven me to do really amazing things.
Fabulous. What makes you happy?
Going to events and spreading awareness.
So, if there were no events and no awareness to be spread, would you be unhappy?
I think so. I think I would find a way to raise awareness somehow. Somehow. I've done a,
So, and this is interesting because this is where I probably would find an area where I want to know more about you because for me, I've been taught my whole life that happiness is inside of me. It has nothing to do with anything that happens outside of me. And I hear your um, your conviction to how important it is for you to spread this awareness. So much so that if there was no event to happen and there was no awareness to be spread, I didn't quite understand your answer. Did you say you would probably be unhappy?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, ever since, I guess just to show you, so when I was first diagnosed in 2012, within maybe a few months, I started a fundraiser. You remember those little squish pennies that you would
Yeah.
get from?
Yeah.
So I used to collect them when I was little, and I always wanted my own. So I actually, I found a designer and I found how to make them and everything. So I ended up making a custom one and selling it on my website and, donating the funds. And definitely during chemo, kept my mind busy because if people had orders in or whatever, it was kind of my promise and obligation that, I'm still going to send these out. I'm still going to do all this stuff. And it kind of got me away from the treatment.
Yeah.
And even after that, I helped spread a lot of awareness in college. My very last semester in college, I really wanted to keep my legacy on campus. And I was afraid that when I would graduate, all the awareness that I'd done would just leave with me.
Yeah.
Because I was the president of the Colleges Against Cancer Club, and I'd done that for 4 years. So everybody who knew me knew my story.
Right.
And my very last semester, I thought, what's bigger than a world record? And I couldn't think of anything. And that's when I knew I would look, and I did a lot of research and figured out there was one Guinness record that was for the largest simultaneous self-check for testicular cancer.
Say that again. What was it? What was the record?
Sorry, largest simultaneous self-check for testicular cancer.
Okay.
So it was, at the time, it was broke in the United Kingdom with, I believe, 208 people. And I was like, that's not that high of a number. I can
No.
do this, especially at a university. And the university actually turned down the event, and which not that many people know. And I basically worked with one of my professors to write, I think it was a 15-page event proposal of why we should have the event and anything the school was afraid of that would happen, basically of how we're going to counter that. So like what we're going to do to protect ourselves kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they ultimately said yes. And I planned that basically my entire last semester of school. And we ended up breaking it, and we beat it. And there were 236 people at ours, which
Fabulous.
felt literally incredible.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
What do you see as the legacy you want to leave?
I want people to check themselves on a monthly basis and inform any family members, guys in the family that, they need to check and just to kind of watch out for it. And, it's very curable if detected early, 99%, but just check.
Yeah. Do you think your cancer was trying to tell you something?
What do you mean by that?
Okay. Um, Let me set up the question by a little bit of a story, okay?
Sure.
I have the honor of having my greatest teacher be my daughter. My daughter's developmentally delayed. She can't have a conversation like this. When she speaks, most people don't understand a word she's saying. But because I'm her dad, she counts on me to understand what she's saying. And somehow I understand her more times than most.
Right.
Um, but there's a lot of times I still don't understand what she's saying. And we're not talking about Descartes and Socrates and Thoreau. We're talking about just basic human needs. Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want to, When she tries to say something to me and she doesn't, I can't understand her, she'll raise her voice. Probably in her mind, she thinks maybe I just didn't hear it. But it isn't the volume, it's the clarity. And so now she's saying it louder, but with still, every once in a while, her increase in volume changes the way she pronounces it just slightly enough for me to get it, but not
Right.
very often. Now it's just louder and harder to understand. When she says it louder and I don't understand her, she'll throw a tantrum because she's just frustrated now because she's counting on me to understand her. And the tantrum doesn't necessarily happen like I'm saying it as if it all happens in a very quick progression like this. It could be 2 hours later. It could be in a
Right.
store. It could be while we're at a friend's house for dinner. It could be at a restaurant. It could be around our dining table. It could be while we're at the beach. It could be wherever, whatever happens. When that doesn't work, she'll come running at me and try and rip my shirt or bite me because she just attacks. This went on, Jason, this went on for about 15 years, sometimes as many as 3, 4, 10 times a day. I used to
Wow.
think that I was a pretty intelligent man, but I couldn't figure out one thing to do. Until finally, in the midst of one of her tantrums and one of her almost virtual moment where a tantrum became an attack, I said to her, Lisa, don't. I can't do this anymore. I want to understand you. You know how badly I want to understand you. You know how much I love you. I just can't understand your words. Can you please try and tell me what you're trying to say in another way, but without words? Just find another way to do it that doesn't use words. And she
Right.
looked at me and she had this smile that melted me at my heart. And she said, I am, Daddy. I said, what the heck do you mean you are, Daddy? How are you doing that? Why would, like, tell me. I'm dying to know. And she took her finger and she put her finger to the side of her head. And what she was trying to say to me is, I've been putting thoughts into your head, Dad, but you're not listening to me. And I could feel sometimes that she was. I could feel that she was literally putting thoughts in my head, but I didn't even trust that she was capable of thinking that those thoughts because sometimes when people
Right.
don't speak, we don't think they're capable of thinking, but she's very capable of thinking. She just couldn't put her words out.
Right.
And
Wow.
I said to her, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts into my head? And she did what you did, but imagine the tension of trying for 15 years to get that message across and finally getting that message across. Imagine all that falling off your shoulders and just the freedom that you now have that you've finally been understood. And we just
Yeah.
laughed. We just laughed for 15 minutes or so in
That must have
control.
felt amazing for her.
It felt amazing for her and for me. We both felt like it was contagious. She would stop and I would just keep going and she would catch me and we would catch each other and we would just laugh. And it felt like we were laughing for 10 years.
Yeah.
I had found a way to hear her and she had found a way to tell me how to hear her. If that would have been the end of the story, I would have thought that's all I needed. But I had this crazy idea. I had this idea to take it into boardrooms, to take it into colleges, to take it into hospitals, to take it into prisons, to take it into homeless shelters, to take it into medical centers, and to see if the same principle didn't work. Wasn't at work that when people or situations tried to say something to us and weren't heard, they would yell. When they yelled and they weren't heard, they would create a scene. When they created a scene and they weren't heard, they would try and destroy. What I'm
Wow.
wondering is, first of all, if do you even think that's reasonable what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So let's make it personal. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. What I find is that in my body has pains in my body, and my pains. I've tried to resist my pains. I've tried to say that I'm not. I'm going to fight those pains, and I'm just going to carry on with my life. But when I don't listen to them, they speak louder. When they speak louder, and then they create havoc. When they create
Right.
havoc, then they destroy. Right.
Right.
So I definitely know my body treats me that way. I'm wondering if you feel your body treated you that way. Did it give you a hint of something that you didn't hear? Did it try and yell something to you that you didn't get? Did it try and create havoc in you that you didn't understand? And then did it try and come with testicular cancer, or did it not? Maybe it just doesn't work in every case. I'm more interested in the question and if it applies.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, like I said, kind of that gut feeling of having that itch. And I caught mine so early that most people were even surprised I caught it. So like if
Yeah,
I didn't do that, it would have, it would have been much, much later. So I I think to answer your question, I think my body subconsciously like knew to check, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So what I think, like in my language, and I like it, your language is just fine, but for the way I hear it is
Yeah,
that you actually did listen to your body. When your body said something, you didn't wait for it to get to the exaggerated places, even though it
correct.
exaggerated on its own quickly, whatever happened. You still
Correct.
caught it. When you heard it, you responded to it.
Correct. Yeah. And like I said, I told my mom, right away. And I think a lot of people my age at the time, and probably even now too, would almost either think, oh, it'll pass, or um, just be too embarrassed to even talk about it.
Yeah,
And I've always been so close with my mom.
yeah.
So that's never been, I can talk to her about anything.
That's so
So
cool.
that's never been a problem.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Let's change the subject a little bit. Let's move in a different direction. Just it's
Sure.
sort of a lightning round, but it doesn't ever go to. It's never lightning because the first few questions are easy. They're lightning, but then the other ones just inspire conversation.
Sure.
Are you a dog or a cat person?
More dog than cat, but I'm not a huge animal person.
Okay, all right. How about coffee or tea?
Tea. I'm not a coffee drinker. I only
Wow,
like iced tea though.
wow. Okay. Milkshake or smoothie?
Probably milkshake.
Wow. Okay. Junk food or organic?
100% junk food. 100%. I
Okay.
have the biggest sweet tooth in the entire world. Everybody who knows me knows that.
Okay. Okay. Um, if you were to work out, I don't know if you do or not, would you be a weight guy or a cardio guy?
Cardio. I used to run.
You did.
I'm a pretty skinny guy, so
Yeah.
no. Weights have
Okay.
never really.
Okay. Would you say that your life fits in the box of the lives around you, or are you someone who doesn't fit in a box?
I would say doesn't fit in a box actually.
Doesn't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people my age either are in a relationship or are married or have a kid or, kind of living on their own. I mean, I live at home by choice,
Yeah.
but just as a way of saving money. But um, yeah, I think different than a lot of people my own age. But most of that is also my decision too, I guess.
Yeah. Understand. In this time, both of these things I think are really important. But I want to ask you to answer one or the other for this moment in time.
Sure.
Do you believe this moment for you, it's more important to be out there and speak your voice and be heard? Or do you believe it's more important to create a platform for other people be to speak and for you to be able to listen to them?
That's really funny you mentioned that actually. So
How so?
I'm actually going to say the second one
Wow.
about creating the platform because I'm actually in the process now of starting my own podcast show that lets other testicular cancer survivors and cancer patients tell their stories.
Wow.
So that's really funny that you mentioned that.
That's cool. So how far away is that from happening?
I still need to get the equipment, but I've done all my research and I've already started to schedule interviews for October. I thought that would be
Fabulous.
a realistic time frame.
Fabulous. Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
Do you feel that you fit in this world, or have you always felt a little bit different?
guess my honest answer, I've always felt a little different.
Yeah.
Um, I don't necessarily know 100% why, but I don't know.
Is it important to know why?
Yes and no. I think, some curiosity isn't bad, but it would be nice to know also at the same time.
To know, and what, if you wanted to know, what is it that would be nice for you to know? Why you feel you don't fit in, or why
Yeah,
you feel you're different?
yeah, yeah.
How would you go about finding that out?
Probably either one of two ways. I would say either A, talking to people who know me best, or B, um, probably doing more of a deep dive into like who I
Well, those are very different approaches. I like both of them.
am. Thank you.
I like both of them. My natural inclination would be to go the second way, right? Because people can only
Yeah,
tell you what they see, but what they see is only what they see,
it's true actually.
you know.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean they won't give you great information. So,
true. Or things to think of.
or things to think about. Um, do you think you operate more from your head or from your heart?
That's a good question. Probably my heart.
Oh,
Yeah, I think definitely. I think like with relationships and just anxiety and things like that. Yeah.
so I listen to people's words and I mosaic them together. And so you said that you operate from your heart and probably in relationships and anxieties. Those wouldn't necessarily be two pieces that I would mosaic together. Is there a mosaic of those two pieces, or is there a reason why you chose those two words to talk about?
Um, I tend to get anxiety in relationships a lot of the times.
You tend to get what? Say that again.
Anxiety in relationships,
Uh-huh.
um, and lessening my self confidence and things like that.
Do you think that has anything to do with testicular cancer?
Actually, no. Most people are, my mom is very surprised when I do it, but when I get into a new relationship or meet someone, it's one of the very first things I tell them. Because for me, it's kind of like a deal breaker. Some people don't like it, and if they don't, that's fine.
Yeah,
But it's so much a part of my life that it's not even a question for me.
gotcha. Huh. Would you say you're a leader or a follower?
Both. I guess it depends on the scenario. I think a lot of times I'm definitely one to lead. Um, and it's kind of my natural instinct to kind of just jump in, especially if there's a problem or someone needs help. But I think if I'm unsure of something or questioning myself, again, kind of with the self confidence and anxiety, then I would more follow.
What makes you question yourself?
I don't know. I do it a lot, and I think it's just not wanting to get something wrong.
What would happen if you got something wrong?
Realistically, probably nothing. I think in my head, it's probably more of, am I going to get in trouble for something, or should I know this, or that kind of thing.
So, pardon me for just playing with you, and you can tell me shut up at any point in time. Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Um, what would happen if you got something wrong or if you got in trouble?
I mean, eventually I'd have to get over it. um, I, I mean, realistically, it would just be a short term thing, you know? whether in my head or not even, like at work or something.
So part of the reason why I'm asking, and I love your honesty, and I so appreciate you showing up real as you're showing up. I really honor you for that, and that's why I'm asking, because there's so many people that are listening that don't have the honesty that you have. And
Yeah.
so
Well, thank you.
what I want them that's to what when I have a person that is raw and real and vulnerable and honest, I want to see how far we can go with that, so that people listening can hear for themselves. Because fear blocks us from doing so many things. And yet, it's when we analyze what that fear is, we don't even know what we're really scared of, because it's not really that big a deal.
Right.
But
No, that's true.
it becomes that deer in the headlights moment, where all the deer has to do is keep walking across the street and they'll be fine. But it's like, right?
Oh yeah.
And it just stands there and gets hit by a car.
Oh yeah.
And so you have so much strength in you. I just wonder what makes you click over. What's that pivot point where you click over to where you question yourself and you let go of all that strength?
Um, like I said, I mean, a lot of times, I think a lot of times it's in a relationship with comparing myself to somebody else who's maybe stronger or um, I don't know, has a deeper voice. I don't know.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't know.
Be interesting to sit with that a little bit.
Yeah,
Because
that's definitely something.
so often what I find is that when a tree is young, we put a little fence around it to protect it. But then when the tree gets big and strong, the little fence looks a little stupid around it, because it does not doing anything
That's
anymore.
true. That is
Right?
very true, actually. I never thought of that.
And it sort of feels like you're a big, strong tree with a little fence around you, which doesn't really do that much anymore.
No, you're correct, actually.
Thank you for,
It's
I just hear stuff in my head, and so I say it,
yeah,
and but it's always with respect to you. I hope
yeah.
it's
Oh, of course. No, and I'm a very honest and open person,
yeah,
so I always
yeah.
like when other people are the same. So,
Thank you, thank you.
of course,
Do you think people are more similar than they are different, or more different than they are similar?
I think before the pandemic occurred, people were very, or at least thought they were very different. And I think the one comment I even made to my family was once this pandemic occurred, I think I even realized how similar everybody is. Even celebrities who
Yeah,
have everything in the world they could ever want versus somebody who's super poor. When it comes down to this and health, everybody's the exact same.
yeah.
There's either supplies, there's no supplies. You either get sick, you don't get sick, you die, you don't die. No matter how you look at it, they're exactly the same.
So remember my daughter: speak, scream, tantrum,
Yep,
attack.
yep.
What do you think the pandemic might be trying to say to us?
Probably a lesson to treat everybody equally and not to, um, I don't want to say not to put yourself on a pedestal, but not to say that you're better than anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much going on in the world, especially in America right now, right? I mean, it might be
Yeah.
going on around the world too, but as Americans, we don't know that as much about the world as we do about our own country, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
but there's a big divide in our country around politics. There's race protests. There's COVID-19 that's pausing our whole country. There's the Me Too movement that's affecting. There's equal rights for all people of all different sexual. There's institutions are crumbling. The medical field is crumbling. Churches are crumbling. There's all sorts of events that have been happening all these years with priests and baby boy and little boys. There's
Yep.
so many things that are going on in the world. What do you think the world wants to tell us?
I think there's a lot of problems that need to be solved. I think everyone really just needs to take a step back and, um, maybe even just think about their own lives.
Hmm.
And, maybe I think this is definitely, at least, I mean, I know for me, um, I I think I see the world a lot differently now in the sense of, um, obviously with my health scare, but I'm not as quick to, run to a crowded place. And like I used to literally every single weekend go down to DC, go to sporting events. Um, I would go anywhere where there was a crowd. Like that was the one place I wanted to be at. I The championship parades in DC, we just had all these teams win. And I was at every single parade. I was the first one there at 5 in the morning. I wouldn't do that now. And that's like who I am, but I would be too afraid to do that.
Hmm. What was so important for you to be at where the crowds were?
I guess I just always, one, I think the excitement and the rush internally. And I guess I never wanted to miss anything, especially historic things.
Yeah.
That's definitely something like even when the Caps won the Stanley Cup, um, their home opener with the banner raising. Uh, you know, I'm not a huge Caps fan personally. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not. I don't really follow sports that well, but um, I knew no matter what the price was, that was something I wanted to be at.
Yeah.
And recently we had the World Series in Washington,
Yeah.
and I watched it on TV, and I actually really got into it. But I knew the one thing I would regret is if I did not go to a World Series game here.
Yeah.
And nobody else wanted to go because tickets were way too expensive. They were like,
Right.
at least $1,000 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So none of my friends wanted to go. My stepdad didn't even want to go. And I was like, I think the one thing I've learned about me, not from this pandemic, but even before, was I don't let people stop me from doing what I want to do,
Yeah.
because there's so many times when I was younger and, stupid things like Starbucks or, something like that, but where I would want to do something, my friend wouldn't, then I wouldn't go. And that was like one thing I wanted to do. And now I'm not going just because they didn't want to go.
Right. Right.
So instead of letting other people make decisions for me, I've learned just go yourself. So there's
Fabulous.
many events I go to just on my own because I want to go. So
Fabulous.
yeah,
So if you had 2 minutes to say to the world something, not to teach them, not to try and fix them, not to try and change them, but just to try and be there for them, what would you say?
that's a really good question, actually.
Thank you.
Um, Probably do, I think everything you do in life, do for you, and do something that you enjoy doing. I've always said, even with a job, I'd rather have a job that I enjoy than a job that just pays a lot of money and I hate it.
Yeah.
And just to really be who you are and be authentic. And, if people don't like that, then that's okay. But you're who you are and just stand by it.
Beautiful. If people want to get in touch with you or support you in the work that you're doing, how would they get in touch with you?
My email address is jhgreenspan@gmail.com.
Okay.
And my website is tcspeakerseries.com. that's for the new podcast.
Okay. Will you send me those links?
Definitely.
And will you also send me, when we get off, a headshot of you? So, because the show will go
Definitely.
out pretty quickly.
Yep, definitely.
Um, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, first of all, and then to show up the way you showed up, which is really open and honest and real and very vulnerable.
Well,
I, I
thank you.
I honor that in you, and I respect that process that you've gone through that's brought you to this place.
Well,
Um,
thank you. And I really appreciate you having me here.
it's my
Actually, I
it's,
really do.
it's my honor. Uh, I want to thank those of you who listen to this show, and if you, again, as I say every show, if you like it, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, don't share it with your friends. It's okay. But the only way we things grow is when we like something and we tell other people about it. So if you do like it, reach out to somebody and share it with them. I also want to challenge each one of you here today. And it's a challenge that I say in every single show. Take a minute and reach out to somebody you don't know. That can be either online or in person. It doesn't matter how you choose to do it. But walk up to somebody you don't know and just say to them, "How are you doing?" And just listen. In my life, I've had the opportunity to be with the richest people in the world and the poorest. And what I found in every single case, no matter what color their skin, no matter how big their home or how torn their cardboard box, no matter what religion they practice, no matter what border they live behind, no matter what their education level was, everybody wants these three things. They want to be loved and accepted, they want to be listened to and heard, and they want to be acknowledged and validated. In my 65 years of life, no one's ever said to me, "Danny, it's important you agree with me." They don't care if I agree with them. They know that I have my own opinions. And just like I know that they have their own opinions. But when we reach out and open up ourselves and hold the space for someone to share themselves with us, we take a stranger and suddenly they become a friend. And in the world we're living in, we couldn't err on the side of friendship more. When we are friends with each other, we'll live our lives differently than when we're strangers with each other. Reach out, become a friend to somebody, not because of pity or because of anything else, just because you're interested in knowing who these people are. This room is a magic room for me. I don't know what happens. I know people write me all the time saying, "Thank you for letting me be here." But I get so much from it because I get to know. I've had 65 or so people 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I had no idea even existed, that I now think are my buddies, that I tell their stories when I give talks. When I'm on other podcasts, I reference their story because they're a part of me. It's a much richer, fuller life to live a life with other people rather than against them. So take me up on my challenge and let me know you've done it. Don't be strangers with each other. The world's a beautiful place when we're friends. I want to thank you again, Jason. Is there any one last thing you want to say before we close off?
No, I think just thank you again for, having me, and I wish you all the best with everything. I think your show is incredible.
Thank you so much. I think that you are incredible, and I want to wish you all the best in everything you do as well, my friend.
Well, thank you.
For those of you listening, again, thank you. And until the next stranger comes into this magic room, I will see you next time. Don't be strangers. Ciao.